The room grew silent the moment John Kennedy stood up. Cameras clicked, lights beamed hot on his shoulders, and yet it wasn't the weight of politics or the usual fire of debate that settled in the air. It was something deeper, something spiritual. Everyone in that chamber thought they knew what Kennedy would say, but what came out of his mouth stunned them to their core. For weeks, the Senate had been in chaos. Heated arguments about faith, values, and morality swirled like a storm no one could calm. Politicians pointed fingers. Television pundits tore into each other, and ordinary Americans felt more divided than ever. Ted Cruz, exhausted from defending his side, looked worn and heavy-eyed as if he carried the weight of an entire country on his shoulders. And then John Kennedy spoke. He didn't begin with policy. He didn't begin with anger. Instead, he began with a story of Jesus that had lived in his heart since childhood. "When I was a boy," Kennedy said, his voice steady but soft, "my mother taught me that Jesus didn't sit with the powerful, he sat with the broken. He didn't seek glory, he sought to heal. He didn't divide people, he brought them together." The chamber stilled. Even the critics leaned forward. Kennedy continued, his words weaving through the air like a melody. He spoke about the time Jesus washed his disciples' feet, reminding everyone that true leadership wasn't about pride, but about service. He spoke of forgiveness, recounting how Jesus, even on the cross, prayed for those who mocked him. His voice trembled only once, when he said, "If our Lord could forgive the men who nailed him to wood, surely we can forgive our neighbors who simply vote differently." Across the room, Ted Cruz shifted in his seat. His eyes glistened, though he fought to hide it. For months he had been on edge, locked in battles that seemed endless. Yet here, before him, was not an opponent tearing him down, but a fellow man reminding him of a truth he had nearly forgotten, that politics was never greater than humanity, and humanity was never greater than God's love. Kennedy didn't stop there. He turned to the senators, to the cameras, to the millions watching at home, and said, "Jesus gave us two commandments that rise above all else. Love God, love your neighbor. If we can't start there, then all our laws, all our debates, all our victories mean nothing. Because at the end of the day, it won't be about who won an argument. It'll be about whether we cared for the least among us." The silence was holy. No one dared interrupt. Ted Cruz lowered his head. His shoulders shook, and for the first time in years, he felt the sting of tears. Not from defeat, not from anger, but from the sheer force of truth. Kennedy's words had pierced through the armor of politics and reached the place in Cruz's soul that longed for peace, for something higher than partisan war. When Kennedy finally sat down, the chamber didn't erupt in applause. Instead, it remained hushed, as if everyone knew they had just witnessed something greater than politics, something eternal. Later, reporters would scramble to spin it, commentators would argue over it, and critics would pick apart every sentence. But those who had been there, those who had heard the trembling conviction in Kennedy's voice, those who had seen Cruz's tears, knew the truth. For a brief, shining moment, the weight of division had lifted, and faith had reminded them all that love was the only foundation strong enough to hold a broken nation together. And so, what John Kennedy said about Jesus that day wasn't just words. It was a call to remember who they were. Not just senators, not just Americans, but children of God, bound to each other by grace. The lasting message lingered long after the chamber emptied. Power fades, arguments crumble, but love, real, unshakable love, remains.